Story 1. Me and my wife want to give up our daughters for adoption. Using a throwaway because I'm pretty active in some other subs and don't want this associated with my main account. My wife and I have been together since college and got married a little while after she graduated. When we first got together, she told me she didn't really like kids, and while I was a little disappointed, I didn't care too much about it. I didn't feel very strongly about it either way. We were very in love and things were perfect for a good while. Her birth control failed 6 years ago, and I told her that I would support whatever choice she made. She scheduled an abortion, but backed out the day before, and we became loving and enthusiastic parents. Later on down the road, she decided she wanted another child, and so we had our second daughter. They are 5 and 3 years old, and absolutely perfect. They are both very well behaved and ahead of the curve for kids their ages. Another thing that's worth mentioning is my wife is a stay-at-home mom. My job is very demanding, and I'm out of town for week-long stretches at a time once a month, and then 9 to 6 the rest of the month. I've had this schedule since we were married, basically. I make good money in the low 6 figures, and we've never had any kind of financial struggles. For the past few months, I've known something was up with my wife. She's obviously the primary caretaker of our daughters, but recently she's been completely hands-off when I'm at home. I don't mind spending the extra time with my daughters taking care of them, but it's more than that. She will completely ignore them while I'm around. If they ask her for anything at all, she tells them, "Go ask Daddy," or we'll go in our bedroom and lock the door to get away from them. I've been asking her if she's all right, and she's been insisting everything was fine until last night. After we put the kids to bed, she came to me and sat me down at the table. She started talking about fun things we had done right after we got married, what a great adventure everything had been, just generally reminiscing. She was being sweet and funny and loving, and my guard was down. She said, "Back before we had the girls, we could do anything we wanted. I wish we could go back to that." I asked her what she meant. After much prodding, she admitted that she regretted having kids. I said that there were times when I felt overwhelmed too, but that I would always love our daughters. She got quiet. She mumbled something, and I asked her to say it again. She yelled, "I don't love them," and then started sobbing. I sat there with my mouth hanging open. She composed herself and then started talking again. She was saying how she had been looking into adoption agencies and foster care. She had contacted one agency already. She was making plans to give away my children. I continued to listen, too dumbfounded to say a word, and she babbled on about how amazing it's going to be to have our lives back, how great our relationship will be when we don't have kids anymore. I don't know what to do. I let her talk herself out, and when she went to bed, I went and got my babies, packed some things, and drove to my mother's house. I called in sick to work today. I told them I'd probably be out the rest of the week. I have a ton of missed calls, voicemails, and texts from my wife. I haven't looked at any of them. I've spent the day talking to my mom about things and keeping the girls occupied. My mom doesn't know what to do either. I'm thinking I have a couple of options. Start calling lawyers or start calling mental health professionals, maybe both. I don't know if she's having some kind of psychotic delusion or if she's just that awful of a person. I really don't want to go back home to her now. Ever. I'm thinking divorce is the best choice, but I can't take care of the kids on my own. What should my next move be? Should I try to call my wife? Yeah, as much as fans of the channel know that I'm a supporter of abortion, your body, your choice, absolutely. And I am a supporter of people wanting to have those kids and adoption. I think adoption is a great thing. But I think when you make the choice to keep those kids and you've had them for, 5 years where they have made attachments, they know who you are, and then just going, "I changed my mind, I don't want them anymore." I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I respect when people are going to have a kid and they're like, "I'm not going to be a great parent. I don't think me raising this kid is for the best. I want to give it up for adoption." But when you form those bonds and stuff, I don't know. I think maybe the wife is having some struggles and there's other things going on that therapy could help with and she could get over this. Because there does come a point where years down the road, the kids will become, more autonomous. They'll do their own things. You'll be able to go out and do the stuff you used to do, but those early years are busy. I don't know. So, but yeah, hearing that and hearing her say like, "I don't love them," that's a lot. And I don't feel comfortable at all saying like, "Oh, you should do this or this." Like, you should have a lot of talks with her and most definitely some form of professional. I don't know, folks. This is one of those ones where get in the comments. Let me know where you're at with this, because this is a lot. Story 2. Today I effed up by lying to my girlfriend about who I am. Okay, so for context, this didn't technically just happen today. It's been a long time coming, and I now realize how much I've effed up my relationship with my girlfriend. Throughout my life, I've suffered with quite extreme bullying, domestic abuse, always looking and feeling extremely ugly, and homophobia for being bisexual in a very small, very old-fashioned town. I always felt like I stuck out and in the worst way possible. I felt genuinely awful about myself every day. I was very depressed and contemplating taking my own life by the age of 10, self-harming by the age of 12, anorexic by the age of 14, and struggling with social anxiety throughout my life. My only line of support were my pets, as dumb as it sounds. They were everything to me. They loved me and I loved them, and that was all there was to it. I started dating my ex-girlfriend at age 14, and it was my first experience with that kind of relationship. However, she sort of dated me out of pity and, as I now know, as a way for her to feel better about herself. She cheated on me several times and would by telling everyone about it in front of me. She physically and verbally abused me, and I never stopped because I thought at least she loves me. I began practicing Judaism as a coping mechanism and told no one. I eventually hit this breaking point in my life. I was 15. My pets all passed away within a year of each other. I realized my then girlfriend had no love for me at all and didn't even care. She was threatening to leave me for someone else, and for the first time in my life, I took a stand and just said, fine, then go. I realized that after all that she did to me, I didn't love her. I just wanted to be loved. Anyway, that brings us to the problem. After this breaking point, I dyed my hair, curled it, cleared up my skin, started wearing height boosters, deepened my voice, went to the gym, went on a diet to benefit my appearance, changed my music taste, altered some of my interests, changed my dexterity, tackled my social anxiety, acted way more confident than ever before, becoming more extroverted, became quite an emotional person so I'd never have to hold any of it in again, and told my people that the reason I practiced Judaism was because my family were Jewish. As I did this over lockdown, when I came back to school as an almost 16-year-old, nobody even noticed that the person I was before had gone, that how worthless I was. But now everyone began to notice me. They liked me or respected me for my newfound popularity. I made new friends, one of them being my current girlfriend. Wanting to desperately, genuinely be the person I was trying to be, I acted as if it was all natural and I'd never been different. The few that remembered me soon forgot who I used to be and associated me with my new self. As my girlfriend was one of those people I made friends with, she was under the impression that this was my genuine natural self. And when I began dating her at age 17, I decided to keep up the facade because for the first time, I really loved my life. I loved who I was and I didn't want that to change. I wanted the person I used to be just be dead and forgotten. However, we're now 19, in uni together, and strongly committed. I love her more than life itself, and I do everything I can to prove that to her. I can't wait to marry her and have kids. I think about that every single day. However, besides the height boosters in my shoes, hard to hide, she doesn't know anything else of my original self. I know that I've really effed this up by not telling her by now, but I couldn't bear to even remind myself till now. It's all been such a race and so much fun. It's been the best years of my life and I feel so free. However, I have one thing holding me back, and that's guilt. Me and my girlfriend are incredibly open with each other on every issue, and I love that about us. I've told her my life story and told her I changed myself, but never elaborated or told her the extent to which I did. I feel guilty for hiding anything and know that something has to give at some point. If I don't, she'll somehow find out by hearing from my family that I dyed my hair or that they're not Jewish. I no longer practice Judaism, and so that one especially just makes me feel so guilty. What do? I've really effed this up. Do I tell her? Do I see how far I'll go? It could last me forever, but I feel increasingly guilty. So, I'm gonna say this. Aside from the, lying about being Jewish and everything, I don't really see an issue with the rest of it. Like, you changed yourself in high school, and the news I have for you is lots of people do that. And at first, it doesn't necessarily feel like you. It feels like you're putting on a facade, as you've kind of said. But if you find, a comfort in that, and if you find yourself associating with that and being like, wow, I feel so much more free doing this, by wearing this facade, I feel happy and free, and I'm enjoying my life and enjoying what I'm doing, that's not a facade. That's just you going through changes, especially as a teenager. Lots of us do that. I used to be goth. This is not a joke. I wore chains everywhere. I dyed my hair and stuff like that. Wore black clothes and trench coats and stuff, It was something I experimented with. And it didn't really stick. There were parts of it, though, that I liked and incorporated. And then I got, more into theater and this and that. I've explored things my whole life. And there are certain things that I've done that at first I'm just like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be funny if I did this? It's not really me, I'm a t-shirt and jeans guy. But yeah, I'll wear, some big tie, fisherman pants or some loose linen shirts. Not the best example today. I felt like dressing up. I don't know what to tell you. But as I wore that stuff, I realized this is the kind of stuff that I've always just thought I wanted to wear, but never did because, well, I'm not the kind of person who wears that. That's not who I am. No, it was. I just denied that part of myself. So yeah, I think if you have a discussion with your girlfriend and let her know, my family's not actually Jewish. I took up Judaism because I was going through a hard time in my life. It was something I connected with. I think she might understand that. That's the one thing you really need to come clean about. The rest of this, I genuinely don't see as an issue. People always try and experiment with these new things that maybe don't feel like them, but maybe the real facade is what you were wearing all the rest of the time, and that's part of what made you feel so miserable. I don't know. Could be different for everyone out there, but seriously, as a message to any younger folks, or even, adults watching this, if there's stuff in your life that you feel like you want to do, but that doesn't feel like you, it can be you. Anyone can be any of those things. Put yourself out there. You might think it's weird. You might think people be like, why are you doing that? You don't do that. If you do it, you do it. And if it makes you happy and it doesn't hurt anyone else, then that's great. Story 3. My entitled mom has put herself in competition with my groceries. I'm 16 years old and have recently started buying my own groceries, cooking for myself, etc. I would have started sooner, but my truck is currently broke down and my entitled mom has promised to teach me to cook for years and never did. I finally just taught myself because I'm going to college out of state this fall. I get groceries by going with my mentor/counselor who takes me to the grocery store. It's part of the counseling program I'm in because I only have a permit and again, my truck is broke down. So I can only buy stuff every so often. My job is also babysitting, so I don't even make that much. The babysitting is with my entitled mom because she won't let me get a different job but holds the babysitting over my head. I have my wisdom teeth removal surgery tomorrow. If you've never had your wisdom teeth removed, you're not allowed to eat anything starting the midnight the day of the surgery. Can't use a straw, you can only eat cold, soft foods until the bleeding stops, followed by only being able to eat soft, warm food when the bleeding is done. I went out with my mentor after school and went to the grocery. I have a credit card in my entitled mom's name and my dad's name, but they've both been given to me and I pay them. My entitled mom called me as I walked into the store and specifically said not to use my dad's card unless I go over 40 on her card. So I used her card for everything but a container of ice cream because I didn't want to chance it and have my card decline. So I bought a small container of ice cream, those drinkable yogurts, oatmeal, and quick make mashed potatoes and mac and cheese. I struggle with texture issues, so the only way cold things I could really eat were ice cream and yogurt. I get home, my entitled mom wants to know what I bought. I show her being proud and whatnot before she sees my ice cream and says she's gonna try some. I figured, tomorrow. After I opened it, nope. Immediately opened it and took a big spoonful. I took a bite as well to make sure I liked it, but immediately put it back. Made a joke about eating it and went to take a nap. I wake up to go grab food and she takes my ice cream out of the freezer and grabs a spoon saying she's going to try it. I point out she already did and she just tells me she didn't with a smirk on her face. I go to grab it because I bought it for tomorrow after surgery. She pulls away from me and starts eating several spoonfuls just smirking at me. My dad has the decency to call her out saying she only said she was going to take a bite. She mentions how she's going to just buy me another one. She won't. Or she'll do it days after I need it. I told her I bought it with my money. She says I used her card. When I pointed out that she literally told me to, she says it was still her card. The one she had gave me and it was in her care she would have maxed it out already. She tells me it's messed up I only bought myself ice cream and not her. Didn't think about my mom at all. I remind her that I already told her I was getting ice cream. I also reminded her I was having surgery and there was little to nothing else I could eat. She starts fighting with me for some reason. She then says she's going to eat everything after I go to sleep and I can just deal with it. I remind her how childish she was being at 41 fighting with a 16-year-old about food I bought. My dad yells at us to stop, and she keeps going about how if I take it upstairs, see how good it is tomorrow. I once again asked her if she was really going to, at 41, eat all of a 16-year-old's food that was bought because of a surgery. My dad yells at me this time to drop it. Go back to sleep and stop being grumpy and that I have an attitude. This isn't even the first time she's tried to compete with my groceries. For some reason. I bought my own body wash like 4 days ago because we haven't had any for months, and the next day she comes in flaunting how she got her and my little sister body wash and making a big deal out of it. I bought some stuff to make dinner, and she tries taking charge of my cooking. I told her not to put the butter in yet. I have to get some stuff prepared first, and I'm going to use a pan anyway because it's hard to mix stuff in such a small pot. She puts the butter in anyways, causing me to rush. The butter burns. When I try to mix anything, I have to tilt the pot sideways. I had to dump it because it was burnt and she blamed me for burning it. When I told her I was the one cooking and to leave me alone and I was able to do my own thing, it didn't burn. It sounds like your mom is kind of a jerk and is maybe struggling with some of her own problems and projecting that crap onto you, and that's not okay. I think you have a right to be upset about that. I hate when parents are just like, well, you're under my roof and even though you bought yourself this thing, that's mine too because I'm the adult and I could do what I want. You're a bad adult. You're a bad parent at that point, especially when they're 16. Like, I get it. If it's a little kid who's like, 5 years old and they're like, no, daddy gave me $5 and I bought myself 2 sacks of Oreos and I'm going to eat them all. And the mom goes, no, you're not. Like, sure. But when someone's 16 and on the cusp of adulthood and, needs to have more rights, more privacy, all that kind of stuff, autonomy. When parents do this stuff, it's like, you're being a bad parent. You're not helping to prepare your child for the real world, adulthood out there. And you're just showing that you are a more immature person than your own child. And you really need to look at yourself and do better. Story 4. Am I the a-hole for smacking my older nephew for putting his hands on my daughter? So, my husband and I have a nephew, Ed, who has out of nowhere experienced a dramatic personality change. He usually is a sweet and happy person, but for the past couple months we noticed that he's been having more violent tendencies. I'm not talking about a little shove here and there. I'm talking about punching and trying to hurt people with objects. He was suspended from school for 2 weeks for throwing a chair at his teacher. My husband and I have been talking about it and have expressed to each other that we think sister-in-law and brother-in-law need to think about getting him into therapy, but anytime we mention any advice towards the kids, sister-in-law gets defensive. This past weekend, everyone was at my mother-in-law's house for a barbecue for her, leaving her to spend the holiday with her mom in Mexico. Everything was going good. The men were grilling, the women were chatting, and the kids were outside playing on the trampoline and jungle gym. I was talking to my mother-in-law about Christmas plans when I heard my daughter scream. Looking out the window, I saw my nephew trying to force my daughter off the jungle gym. Without thinking, I came out my heels and began running towards where they were at, not noticing my husband already in front of me. Just as my daughter lost her footing, my husband dove and was able to catch her. My nephew had come down the stairs, and when I looked at him, he was smirking, and without thought, I charged toward him and shoved him back. I was screaming at him, but I can't remember all of the words that were coming out of my mouth. My sister-in-law shoved me away from him, and I shoved her back harder, causing her to fall down. I told her she needs to get him some effing help, and before I could say more, my husband was pulling me backwards toward the house to get our stuff. When we got home, I got the full story from my daughter. My niece and daughter were playing on the trampoline when my nephew got on and began playing rough and causing my niece to fall off. My brother-in-law screamed at him to stop, and he proceeded to lay spread eagle in the middle, preventing them from playing how they wanted. They decided to just get on the jungle gym, and as my daughter was swinging on the monkey bars, my nephew grabbed her legs and tried to pull her down. She proceeded to kick him in the face, and he let go. That's when she went back to the top to slide down, and he proceeded to drag her to the edge and throw her off. My husband said he understands why I did it, but I should never put my hands on anyone. Part of me feels bad, but the other half doesn't care because he tried to hurt my baby. Am I the a-hole? I wish we had any ages of the various kids in these stories, because half of me is like, is this older kid? Is he like 8 years old? Is he 12? Is he 16? I don't know. Oftentimes when kids are acting out like this, it's usually because something else is going on and it's a way to like have some control or whatever. So maybe he's being bullied in school, maybe something's bad in the home life. I don't know. And so I have some amount of sympathy for this kid, especially with the parents ignoring it and shutting down any idea of getting that kid help. Now, at the point where he's starting to potentially hurt people, including his younger niece or whatever, that's not okay, and I don't want to excuse that. And I don't know how far any of that has gone, but that kid's parents need to get over themselves. Parents, if your kid starts acting out, it's not like to get them help is not saying, we have completely failed as parents, we're terrible people, so I guess we need to get him therapy. That's not what that means. Every parent fails in some way, and sometimes no one's perfect. No one knows exactly how to parent every child perfectly. And just because your child is having some issues, getting them help is not you just admitting to the world that you're awful, So just get your kids some help. If you want the best for them, then that's what's best. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.